Hey, welcome back, parents. Listen, we are always making it our mission to improve our audio and video quality as much as possible for you. Those of you who are watching on YouTube, or those of you that have earbuds in your ear, we are trying to make your listening experience better. So we've messed around with all kinds of different technology. And guess what we came up with? Apparently, the best mix is a combination of wearing these giant headphones on your ears and using a really high quality mic. So I've got it going on today. You'll have to give me some feedback and let me know how it is on your end. We've tried a number of different things, and so far we're hopeful that this is the best combo. But I've got to tell you, I'm just smiling from ear to ear because I look a little bit like an alien. You should check us out at Families of Characters YouTube channel and you can see me. Well, I kind of look like Barney. Do you remember that kids cartoon character? Because I got this bright purple shirt on and then these crazy looking, whatever these are called, earphones, headset on. So anyway, we just think it's important for you to have good quality stuff. So I think it's fun to share the behind the scenes with you as well. Guys, I am your host of the show, Jordan Langdon. If you're new to our show, welcome. If you are a follower and have been watching the show and listening to the show for a while, welcome back. We know that parenting is an intricate dance of love, responsibility, and growth. And as we navigate the joys and the challenges of raising a family, it is essential that we find simplicity, we communicate effectively in our relationships, and that we focus on our own journey rather than comparing ourselves to others. Now, listen, today we're going to talk about one of my favorite New York Times #1 best-selling authors, James Clear. He wrote the book Atomic Habits. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm holding this book up right now. It's a gorgeous book cover. The words Atomic Habits are kind of this rose gold glittery font. It's beautiful. Anyway, his big deal is that tiny changes make remarkable results. Just a tiny 1% change in something that you do really ends up making major transformations in your life. And that's what we're about here at Families of Character, is just doing the small things, making small changes over time that will help us, number one, strengthen our marriages, and two, unify our families. So James Clear offers such valuable insights that can really transform our marriage and family life that I highly recommend the book. My husband and I have both read it, and so has our 17-year-old son. And I think this is our 17-year-old's favorite book too. And he's talked about it on his Instagram channel as well. So the premise of the book is this. It's that, goals, which we talked about at the beginning of the year, goal setting as a family, right? Goals are good for setting a direction, but systems are best for making progress. And he says a handful of problems arise when you spend too much time thinking about your goals and not enough time designing your systems. Goals are good for planning your progress, but systems are good for actually making progress. I love that. So when we think about systems in family life, what are we talking about? Well, for those of you who've been listening to our show for the past 6 months or more, you have heard me talk about the weekly family huddle or a weekly meeting. This is a system. This is what we're talking about, a system in family life. It's a system for organizing the family around the family calendar, making sure everyone's on the same page when it comes to the calendar, both parents and kids too. It also brings the family together to identify a goal to work on for the week. And we encourage that you track your goals so that it's specific and measurable. And oftentimes families will set a specific goal to work on throughout the week, like getting out the door on time, right? Making sure that you're not late to school or work. or everyone making their bed each day. Some families have even said, hey, making a statement of gratitude at the dinner table before we eat a single bite of food is something specific that we can track, that we really want to integrate as a habit. Guys, the family meeting, having a weekly family huddle to focus on what's coming next, work on those executive functioning skills. So, helping kids be able to look ahead and see what's coming and then be able to plan and execute on things. And then setting a goal that you work on as an entire family, parents included, and then doing that same thing again a week later to follow up and give kudos for those. That's a system. This is what James Clear is talking about in Atomic Habits, is that we have to set up these repeatable systems that we stick to in order to make real, true transformations in our lives. So we're going to dive into 3 of James Clear's powerful tips and see how they apply to the realm of parenthood. So tip number 1, embrace simplicity. Well, let's talk about that in the context of family life. So what Clear reminds us is this. He says, quote, "The more things we have, the more we have to manage," end quote. So in a bustling household filled with children and toys and activities, it can be difficult to create simplicity, but not impossible, guys. James Clear goes on to say, simplicity isn't just cheaper, it's easier. So if we can embrace a minimalist mindset, it can alleviate stress and create space for meaningful connections with our loved ones. So before you get overwhelmed and think, oh yeah, you know, this minimalist mindset that people speak of, that's just not for me. I just want you to hang in here because I'm going to give you some really practical tips about how to get started, just like 1% better each day with your family. Okay. So instead of cluttering our schedules with all these extracurricular activities that we feel like are so good for our children, what we can do instead is just prioritize quality time spent together as a family and remind ourselves that that is enough. That's enough. We can simplify our routines and our possessions, focusing on experiences rather than buying more things and having more material possessions. If we do this, we cultivate this sense of calm in our home and harmony happens. So here's kind of a hard truth alert. You know what it's like if you have kids around birthdays, Christmas time, holidays, right? A barrage of gifts come in, right? And sometimes you just have to be just real assertive when it comes to gift giving with relatives if you want to adopt this more minimalist mindset where you focus on experiences versus things. So when you're talking to like grandparents, right? I'll hear parents say, my kids' grandparents really don't care whether we want, to decrease the amount of toys in our apartment or house. They just give them anyway because that's what they want to do. And then other parents have told me, because they've set healthy boundaries with grandparents, they said, but you know what? Grandparents do care if the gifts that they're giving are negatively affecting their grandchildren because they're becoming overwhelmed by the number of toys, or because you're having to put limits on things so that they can do their homework. Like, grandparents do care about that. So if you approach it from the perspective of how this clutter or this excess of toys are affecting the child, that is more likely to be an effective conversation. So when it comes to gift giving, take some time to have a conversation with the giver about the value of gifts. And this can be done in a very sweet, gentle conversation. It doesn't have to be bringing out the hammer and saying, okay, we need to have a real conversation about what you give the kids for gifts, for Christmas or their birthday. No, the idea is to come at this from a gentle perspective of saying, I just got to thinking when it comes to birthdays and holidays and stuff, like what's important for you that your grandchildren know or learn, or what kind of character traits do you want them to exemplify, right? And get in this nice, meaningful conversation with them about it. Now, listen, Dr. Carrie Byrne is a researcher in the field of aging, so she knows grandparents and that age of people well. She's also the founder of advice hub called the Long Distance Grandparent. And she says, instead of saying, we just don't want more stuff, instead ask, what do you want to teach your grandchildren? She says brainstorming a value-based gift together lands better with grandparents and moderates that defensive feeling, right? So you kind of disarm the person when you say, let's brainstorm, let's talk about this together, right? What what is a value-based gift that you could give the kids? So she suggests, like, let's say the grandparent says they want to help your children become more generous, to be thoughtful of others. Well, you could suggest that the grandparent helps your child set up a little book drive where they have all their friends donate a new book to be given to a child at a local family shelter for, a child in need. So having a birthday party is fine to celebrate the child's birth, their life, right? But in lieu of gifts to the child, the grandparent could help the child to send out invitations talking about how your child wants to gather books for children who don't have any to read to donate to a local shelter. And then the grandparent could go with the child and help them deliver these books to the shelter. What a fantastic way to eliminate unnecessary gifts and clutter from coming into the home, but also to help your child see how generosity, being generous towards others, really fills them up. So it's like killing two birds with one stone, right? You're celebrating their birthday, they're getting to unwrap beautiful new books, and then they're getting to give them away to kids who don't have the privilege of being able to have books at their fingertips. I've actually done this with my daughter. We did it last year and she loved it. It was her very favorite birthday party yet. So these are some ways to consider decreasing the clutter of more toys and increasing generosity, and looping a grandparent in on that. Here's another idea to replace things with experiences. You could suggest something to a grandparent, depending on their budget, like taking your child to a ballet. Get dressed up and talk about why you go early before the doors close, and how to sit quietly, and how to clap at the appropriate times. Or take a child to a batting cage to practice baseball, giving them the gift of building their athletic skills, right? Repetition and getting out into a new place to work on a skill. Guys, living simply in family life really is possible, despite what you see on social media, despite what you see in movies, where it's just gather up more things and collect more stuff and have more video games and collect all the latest, stuffies or whatever. Like, it really is possible to live simply in family life. And as James Clear says, the more things we have, the more we have to manage. He says simplicity isn't just cheaper, it's easier. So if you want more tips on how to declutter and help your kids declutter their rooms so that they can live simpler, more minimalistic lives, and they can have the best chance possible at keeping their rooms neat and tidy and organized so that they can find their favorite things, I want you to check out our podcast episode number 63. It's called The Ultimate Guide to Organizing Your Kids for a Successful Year, with professional organizer Angela Nguyen. She is a married mom of two. Guys, she has this down to a science, how to loop your kids in and help teach them to appreciate the things they have and to let go of things and be able to give things away to others. That's episode 63. Okay, let's move on to tip number 2 from James Clear with this book, Atomic Habits. So Clear says, practice direct communication and healthy expectations. I love this. As a therapist, it's so important for us to learn healthy expectations and how to communicate clearly our needs and our wants. But there could be a lot to unpack here when you just talk about direct communication and having healthy expectations of others. So James Clear encourages us to do this. He says, always ask for what you want, but never expect others to fulfill your requests. Okay, guys, effective communication is the cornerstone of a thriving marriage and family life. And by expressing our needs and desires directly and respectfully, we create opportunities for understanding and collaboration. So James Clear goes on to say, always ask for what you want. Many people are happy to help if the request is direct and specific. In a surprise number of cases, something remarkable is possible if you have the courage to ask. Never expect people to say yes. Everyone's busy and balancing multiple priorities. Your request is not their responsibility. So when you're told no, move on lightly and freely. The world is full of opportunity. I love this. Guys, I want to reiterate the part of that tip where he says, many people are happy to help if the request is direct and specific. I can't tell you how many times I've said to my own parents or my in-laws, you know what? I'd love it if you guys could come down sometime and watch the kids while Josh and I get away for a while. And the response is equally as generic as my question was. Usually it's something like, we'd be up for that. But then we don't schedule anything and no one moves forward. But when I've said, Josh and I would love 2 days away to kind of work on planning the next 3 months of our calendar and of family life. And we were wondering if you could come down February 23rd through the 25th or March 11th to the 13th. You know what happens? They check their calendar and they get right back to us with an answer. And if they don't have something on their calendar already, the answer is usually yes. Why? Because they know why we are asking them to do something and what we're needing from them specifically. And to narrow it down to the exact dates we're looking for helps them even more. So being direct and specific is key in communication. I also love how Claire emphasizes that we suspend our expectations, right? That we don't expect people to say yes. He says your request is not their responsibility. So when you're told no, move on lightly and freely. Isn't that nice? Lightly and freely. So often what happens, and I've been there, guys, I have been in this position where we allow ourselves to get really disappointed when someone tells us no. And we even tell ourselves in our minds, we make things up, right? Like, well, I guess they'd rather help my brother more than me. Or they always say no. Guys, we can't make things up in our mind. It's important that we let people say no freely. James Clear reminds us that everyone's busy balancing multiple priorities, and our request is not their responsibility. So if we allow the person that we're asking to say no, and then be willing to ask again in the future, being direct and specific, we'll experience far less disappointment. Now, in marriage, it's super important to make a habit of openly discussing your needs and desires. I will admit, as a very headstrong, independent kind of driver personality, I have a hard time asking my spouse for help. As a matter of fact, I've joked before that I've like thrown my back out trying to move furniture on my own because I just didn't want anyone to have to help me. I just thought I could do it all on my own. Now, I am not proud of that. And I have worked hard to start asking for help more often. And my back thanks me for it too. But it's really important to openly ask for help and communicate your needs to your spouse. If one of you requires support or assistance, just just make a pact with each other that you're not going to hesitate to ask for help. Also, understand that your partner's priorities may be different than yours and respect their boundaries. It's so important. By maintaining realistic expectations and appreciating each other's efforts, you foster that mutual respect and harmony in your relationship. And don't kind of ask your spouse in your mind and then answer it like, oh, I bet he won't help with that. Or I'm sure she is going to say no if I ask. Don't do that to yourselves and don't do that to your spouse. Give them a chance, right? It's important to clearly express your need or want and then allow your spouse to answer for themselves. And if they decline your request, try really hard not to take it personally or to clam up and then just stop asking for help altogether. That would be a disservice to your spouse, and it really is going to hurt you in the end. You don't want to cut off your nose to spite your face, right? Oftentimes, if someone tells us no, what we can do is we can say, when is the next opportunity that they are going to ask me for help where I can say yes to them? What I've noticed in my own relationship, in my own marriage with Josh, and he's noticed the same thing, is that when the other person asks for something from us, if we say yes and grant that request, it's like this cool little domino effect happens where then that person asks for something and we fulfill that request. And so instead of getting in this no, 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 back and forth kind of keeping tabs, I don't have the capacity to help you, I can't help you, the opposite works as well. So I can't help you today. I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to do that for you. Then if you're the one that experienced that no, you're going to look for the next opportunity to fill that person's request with a yes so that you can start this domino effect. It's really awesome how we can serve each other in marriage. So just remember the domino effect is it's a real thing. So James Clear says practice direct communication and healthy expectations. Okay, tip number 3. Focus on your own journey. Clear reminds us to stop comparing ourselves to others and run our own race. In the age of social media and this constant connectivity, it's really easy to get caught up in other people's lives and their accomplishments, right? Where they've traveled to or what the next level home improvement they made, right? But we know in our hearts that true fulfillment comes from embracing our own path and pursuing our own passions and the goals of our families wholeheartedly. So Clear just says, stop paying so much attention to what everyone else is doing and run your own race. He says, how much time is spent reading other people's posts on social media or watching other people's exploits in the news or listening to other people's ideas on podcasts? That's right. He said that. He says, go have coffee with a friend. Go make something. Go outside. All those hours spent looking at someone else's life on a screen could be used to take action in your own life. Guys, I could not agree with this more. And yet I still get caught up in the mindless scroll of social media sometimes. I have Met a friend for coffee. I love this new little coffee restaurant in South Denver. It's called It's Coffee. It's the best Turkish coffee. But like something magical happens when I meet a friend at a good coffee shop and just have a great face-to-face interaction and connection. Right? Or going out in nature, even if it's cold, bundling up, right? Putting your gear on and getting blasted with a little cold weather and some sunshine on your face. It's so much better to pursue those things that we are passionate about that fill us up versus, wasting hours of our time looking at what other people are doing, being voyeurs, right? Peering in on other people's lives. So instead of scrolling through social media and comparing ourselves to other families and looking for the next parenting hack or, the next best Pinterest idea or whatever, if we can prioritize meaningful experiences and personal growth with our family, I'm telling you, things change. We got to make time to connect with each other offline, whether it's enjoying a family hike or even pursuing a shared hobby. By focusing on our own journey and celebrating our own achievements, no matter how small, right? Like James Clear says, the 1%, the tiny changes equal remarkable results. If we do this, what we cultivate is a sense of gratitude and fulfillment in our marriage, in our family life. So consider incorporating these tips into your marriage and family life because these tips can help lead to profound transformation. Maybe your answer isn't in paying thousands of dollars for marriage counseling or to dig deep into old wounds right now. Maybe it's in embracing simplicity, practicing some direct communication, and working on being clear in your communication and not taking it personally when someone says no, but actually working on asking more for people to help and be part of your life. And then focusing on your own journey. Maybe these simple tips are the answer to bring back more peace and harmony in your marriage and your family life. It's a place where you can create a foundation of love, understanding, and resilience that really enriches your relationships and empowers your kids to thrive. So, guys, let's heed James Clear's wisdom and embark on a journey of growth and fulfillment together as a family. Listen, I want you to share this episode with another person if you found it to be helpful. And if you know a friend who listens to our episodes on a weekly basis, I want you to really consider something. This is kind of fun. Do a little 15-minute check-in with a friend about their thoughts on our topics each week. Just maybe even get a text exchange going or meet for coffee and say, hey, what'd you think about that last episode? Were there any takeaways that you, applied to your marriage or your family after listening to that episode? We've even had a couple of small group leaders from churches and moms groups talk about incorporating our podcast episodes into their monthly group meetings. They say, we're just going to pick 3 podcast episodes from the Families of Character show and share the link to those episodes in a text with the parents or the moms that we meet up with. And then everybody can listen on their own time. And then next time we get together for a drink and some socialization, we'll talk about the 3 episodes and share ideas and thoughts. Guys, this is awesome. It's like a book club, only guess what? You don't have to read. You can just put your earbuds in, make a few quick notes in your phone after listening to one of our episodes, and guess what? You are ready for your next pod club meetup. Brilliant. I love this. I think that could be so helpful for busy parents who just don't have the capacity to read books, but want to get together in community and hang out and talk about something meaningful, their own journey, right? Focusing on just that 1% getting better in your marriage and family life. And listen, if you aren't already getting our weekly email newsletters we send out every Tuesday, if you're not subscribed, go to familiesofcharacter.com and hit that subscribe button up top on our website so you don't miss out on discounts for our products and discounts for our coaching too. And be sure to follow us on the social channels. I know you're on them anyway. So follow us on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, not because you want to compare yourself to our channel, because you value good, true, and beautiful content that's well suited for your marriage and family. If you're going to be on the social platforms, look for the good, the true, and the beautiful. Please scroll right past everything else everyone else is doing and look for the people and the organizations that are lighting you up, that are giving you true, real tips and ideas for strengthening your marriage and uniting your family. Because parents, I just can't emphasize this enough. This is our first vocation. This is our calling, is to serve our spouse and to parent our children, to actually raise adults who are people of great character. I know you know that. I know you want that. So tune in and give us a follow on the social channels so that you are getting good quality content. Guys, I'm going to catch you on another episode of the Families of Character show real soon. And please remember this, I am always in your corner.